Now that King Thidrek and all of his men had proven themselves so that no man in the world would dare to bear a shield against them in battle, they wished to set their lands in order and put great chieftains over castles to rule them. Earl Hornbogi went home to Windland, along with his son Amlung and his wife Valborg, and they ruled over their land for a long time with honor and respect. Sistram went east to Fenidi and became duke there and the most famous of men, just as his kinsman had been before. Herbrand went home to his country, where he was the most powerful duke. Then Thidrek rode home with King Gunnar to Niflungaland, along with all those who were later to be his knights. And they made the plan that later became very famous, namely, that young Sigurd should marry Grimhild, the sister of King Gunnar and of Högni, and that he should take half of King Gunnar's kingdom. This was now celebrated with a great feast, and all the best men of the realm were invited, and this feast lasted 5 days, and was exceedingly grand in all ways. And now, when they were all sitting together, King Thidrek, King Gunnar, and young Sigurd, Sigurd spoke to Gunnar, his brother-in-law. I know of a woman who is outstanding above all the women in the world in fame and in all courtesy. She is also superior to all other women in wisdom, courtliness, and all knowledge, nobility, and ambition, and she is called Brynhild. She rules over the castle that is called Sagard. You should take this woman as your wife, and I shall help you, because I know all the ways that lead there. And then King Gunnar answered, and eagerly accepted this advice. Then King Thidrek, King Gunnar, Högni, young Sigurd, and all of their fellows left the feast and traveled a long way without stopping until they reached the castle of Brynhild. And when they arrived, she welcomed warmly King Thidrek and King Gunnar, but she was cool towards Sigurd, because she knew that he had his own wife. The first time they had met, he had promised her with oaths that he would take no other woman but her, and she had sworn that she would take no other man. Then Sigurd went and spoke with Brynhild, and told her their purpose, and asked that she accompany King Gunnar. And she answered in this way: I have found out in truth how badly you keep your word to me, the oaths we swore. In spite of that, if I had all the men in the world to choose from, I would still choose you as a husband. And then young Sigurd answered, It must take place as has been planned, for you are the most worthy woman and the noblest I know, and things cannot be between us as we intended earlier. I have urged King Gunnar to do this, for he is the greatest man. He is an excellent knight and a powerful king, and you and he seem to me a good match. I took his sister rather than you, because you do not have any brothers, and he and I have sworn that he shall be my brother, and I his." And then Brynhild answered, "I see now that I cannot have you, and for that reason I will take advice from you and from King Thidrek." And then King Thidrek and King Gunnar came to where they were speaking, and they did not end their discussion before it was decided that Gunnar would wed Brynhild. Now a great feast was prepared, and when it was ready, and many worthy men had come together, King Gunnar was supposed to go to wed Brynhild. The first night, Gunnar wished to stay beside Brynhild in her bed, and no third person was allowed to sleep in the chamber, because the watchmen kept their watch outside the hall. And when the two were together, the king wished to lay with his wife, but she certainly did not want it. And they strove so much between them that she took his belt and bound his feet and his hands, and hung him on a nail by his hands and feet. And there he remained almost until daybreak. And when day began, she freed him, and he went to his bed, and lay there until he was supposed to get up, and his man came in to him. Then the man went to drink, and he told no one what had happened, and nor did she. And the second night the same thing happened, and also on the third. King Gunnar was completely dejected, and did not know what to do about it. And then he remembered that Sigurd, his brother-in-law, had sworn an oath to be as a brother to him in all things, and he was the wisest of men. And so Gunnar decided to trust him in this case, to let him know, and to take his advice about what was to be done. He spoke privately to Sigurd and told him the truth. And Sigurd answered, "I shall tell you what it is that causes this. She has a supernatural power as long as she retains her virginity, so that there is scarcely a man who has her strength. But when it is lost, she will be no stronger than other women." And then Gunnar answered, "For the sake of our friendship and family ties, I trust you more than any other man in those cases where much is at stake and things must be kept secret. I also know that you are such a strong man that you could take her virginity if any man in the world can, and I would most like to trust you that it will never become known to any man if it is done this way." And then Sigurd answered and said that he would do what Gunnar wanted. And thus it was decided. Evening came, and Gunnar set out to go to his bedchamber. And at the first opportunity, he arranged for young Sigurd to go into his bed. He put on Sigurd's clothes and went away, and everyone believed that he was young Sigurd. And Sigurd cast clothes over his head and appeared completely weak, and thus lay there until everyone had gone away and was asleep. And then he went to Brynhild and quickly took her virginity. And in the morning, he took from her hand a gold ring and put another in its place. And now 100 men came to meet him, and the first was King Gunnar. He went to the bed, and Sigurd went to meet them after he and Gunnar had changed their clothes. They managed for no one to know that it had happened thus. When the feast had lasted 7 days and nights, they prepared to ride home. King Gunnar set chieftains in charge of the castle to rule it, and he rode home to Niflungaland with his wife Brynhild. When he had come home, he sat in his kingdom and ruled it now in peace, together with his brother-in-law young Sigurd, and his brothers Högni and Gernot. But King Thidrek and all of his men rode home to Bern, and they parted in the best friendship. After this little bit of insight into noteworthy bed stories from olden days, we will continue next time with Herburt, Hertegen and Tristram, King Artus, and Thidrek's proposal in the episode Herburt's Banishment. So thank you very much for having tuned in, and see you again next time, back here at Sagenheim.